Okay. Um, I'd like to say thank you all for joining us today. Today is Sunday, no, sorry, September 26th, um, where we're going to be discussing the end of the summer lineup. There are a few shows that haven't gotten all the way 100% complete, um, but most of everything's already been finished. So we're going to go ahead and do this end of the lineup since the next season's already starting to fall in, right?
It's already started.
Yep. So today with us, I'd like to say hello to Albert. Hello. Oh, I got the title card first. I made a mistake there. Here's our welcome card. But transition. I'd like to say hello to Albert, and we also have Jessica here with us. I believe Sean will be joining us a little bit later. I'd like to make a call out to Vinny and why is his name escape? Nick. Hopefully you guys are doing good out there, watching a lot of anime. We'd like to have you guys join us maybe one day. Maybe we'll hold a little hangout, personal hangout, during the time they can hang out, so we could talk to them about some animes maybe in the future. Um, but other than that, today let's go ahead and cover a show that all of us have at least dipped our toes into. Kageki Shoujo. Now, this is one of those titles that's not 100% complete. I believe the newest episode just came out. Jessica informed us.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the only one that's been keeping up to date on it, while the rest of us have fallen behind, but we do plan on finishing it. What would you like to share with us?
Well, there's a Sean that just
Hello?
appeared.
Hey, Sean.
Hey.
So right now we got on the current topic is Kageki Shoujo. Lights, action.
Okay, well, I've only seen one thing, and that's Evangelion.
Kageki Shoujo is probably my favorite. I'm saying that because I got behind on anime this season, and it, along with Higurashi, are the only two shows I've managed to stay current and watch every week. So that speaks volumes to its quality and story and my enjoyment of it. I've also been digging into Takarazuka and watching performances and reading up on it because I'm just really fascinated by this world and the story and the characters. So I really can't recommend it enough if you are into drama or musicals or anything like that. It's definitely great. And the manga is also up there in terms of its quality. It does get a little heavy at times. There are certain subjects that the anime delves into that could be difficult for some people to watch. So just know that going in. But it handles them very well with a deft hand. Albert and Tank, what are your thoughts on it?
So I started watching it. I'm up to I think episode 5 or 6. I don't remember exactly. It does delve into some pretty heavy subjects. It doesn't shy away from how traumatic and disgusting some of these events are. I was kind of impressed about that because they don't gloss over. They don't make it seem like it was a one-off or you could just overcome this trauma with talks, right? It's pretty traumatizing. So I did enjoy that heavy drama. I do also enjoy the challenges that the different girls are facing. They all have their own issues and doubts, self-doubts, challenges that they need to overcome if they really want to become part of the troupe and stand on stage. So I'm you do get invested fairly early on with the girls, and you might have your favorite. You might have ones that you think are not nice. Um, I think each of them have their place in this story, and it makes it that they're not just stereotypes. They do feel like they are actual people. I just behind because of other things, and I do plan to catch up and watch the rest of it.
So, I started watching this with a group of friends. So it's kind of interesting because all these friends or this large male audience watching this show that seems kind of sparkly and you know a drama. So it was kind of fun how we just got into it and just started watching it and having fun with it. And then we realized it was actually kind of heavy with some of its topics. So, but rather than being like disgusted or anything with it, we took it at what it was and started enjoying the show rather than do our typical thing where we just have fun and make fun of things, and analyzed it and had discussions on like, wow, this we can't believe they're doing this, or man, that guy's disgusting. We're all voicing out our own opinions and what was happening. But some of the things I found really interesting was that when I look at the cover and how everyone's dressed, I thought this was going to be kind of like a high school setting thing, but then I realized the ages of these characters actually vary a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we got people that are like, what was it, like 14 and then 21-year-olds all within the same group
Yeah, I
studying for
think.
this. So the range, and also because of that, there's a lot of different thought processes between a lot of the other characters that made it a little more interesting than everyone being the same age and having, these super bright or super clumsy characters. But since it's all varying ages, it makes sense for certain people to think the way they think versus the others, because they've been trying to get in there for maybe a lot longer and haven't been able to, but finally got in, making the stakes higher for them versus the younger students who are still have that hopeful, gleeful look in their eyes that, wow, we made it. And these other ones are trying to, hammer down to them that this is going to be your new life. It's not just going to be all glamour and stuff. But we found it very enjoyable, and we do plan on finishing it. But it's just the reason why I haven't gotten fully finished or too far into it was because we kind of want to watch it as a group versus individuals.
It's good that your group is branching out, outside of usual isekai and shonen.
Yeah, but yeah, we stood. It was interesting. Like it does have some fun playing into that kind of like I kind of want to say thriller thing, because we're like, oh, who's this guy? What's happening? Is something bad going to happen? And then as the reveal of who these characters are and stuff, you're like, oh, that guy wasn't really as bad as we thought. So it's been really fun, and I hope to get the group back together to finish out the series once it's all out. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in what other heavy topics that they might go into in the future, because some of the stuff they've already shown us within these first few episodes were kind of like, wow.
It kind of comes out of the gate swinging because nothing that they cover in later episodes is as heavy as the topics that they discuss in the first half of the season. Um, so I think if you can make it past those topics, you'll be okay for the rest of the season, because it starts to go more into the daily life of the school and their routine and the drama within the school once they've explored the backgrounds of the characters and whatnot. And one thing I will say is that when I first started watching, I erroneously thought that the characters were one-dimensional or that they were playing to these tropes and stereotypes, but that's absolutely not true. Is as you go through the show and learn more, the characters peel back their very layers, and they're all pretty complex. Even the twins that you think, oh, this is just the twin character that we've seen in anime 1,000 times before, where they finish each other's sentences and they're treated as a unit instead of two separate people. And then there's an episode dedicated to the twins and finding out who they are as individuals. It's very good. So if the first episode you don't think the characters are that great, just give it time and you will not be disappointed.
I read a short interview. They referenced a different interview where the author of the manga actually said initially, she had the girls simply pegged by stereotypes like, oh, the Genki girl, the bully, the cool, type, and yet once you start watching, you realize, she really did flesh out all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do on the surface look like a stereotype, but once you actually go into the story, I think you'll be surprised at the depth of their characters.
All right. So, I know Jessica mentioned who she would recommend it to. The theater types and the, I guess more, the people who tend to watch more dramas, I guess you would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that, but so you shonen people, you need to expand. Get into Kageki Shoujo. It's not that bad. So for the rest of this anime discussion, we're going to go down the list in alphabetical order with the shows that we've seen, and even if we haven't 100% finished them, we're just going to discuss maybe a little bit about them, see why we quit them or why we even started them, like this next title. What was this thing called in English again? A Drugstore in Another World, The Slow Life of a Cheap Pharmacist. And I started watching this with a group of people as well, the same group. And this is the show that we heavily made fun of. And just attacked it, and surprised to find that the main voice actor was Kazuma's voice from Konosuba. Once I heard him start yelling at the people, I was like, oh, snap, it's him. And this show is just so crazy, and it's one of the few shows also with the end card. So we started finding the end cards, going on Twitter and finding those people who drew them. So that was kind of fun in a sense. But we also found that reading the comments in Crunchyroll for this show is so hilarious. Because of they make a lot of connections with Breaking Bad. Because, I guess in Breaking Bad they had the blue crystal meth or something like that, right? So then here's this guy, Reiji, making these blue potions that everyone's getting addicted to, that they just can't live without anymore. So a lot of the comments were just comparing this to Breaking Bad in Another World. And it was just very hilarious. And they're also their little montage whenever he's mixing a potion we would all just start sitting there going, dude, just having fun with the show, just not caring about it. But there's a lot of questions in the first half that we saw that never answered, that we're shocked with. Like, they say it's cheap pharmacist, right, in Another World, whatever. But I don't think they've even shown anything indicating how he got to that world. It just starts off with him already in the pharmacist with the drugstore. So that was one of the biggest gripes we saw was like, how did he get there? Was it Truck-kun? Was he summoned? Was he reincarnated? What was it? And then it's like they skipped the whole first few chapters of the manga because I've seen the manga of this, so I know somewhat of how he gets to where he's at, but I don't know if it's later on in the episodes that they're going to do flashbacks of maybe how he got there and everything, but so far we haven't seen anything explaining why he got there, how come he has these cheat skills, which I think is pretty self-explanatory with any isekai, but it's just...
Oh, yeah. When we talked about it in preview, that was one of my things. I thought this sounded more like someone's fantasy murder novel, and then the editor was like, hey, if you just tack on isekai, it would sell better. And so they did. And that's kind of how it feels like. Nothing about his previous world seems to be, at least in the first 2 episodes that I saw. No, I saw only 1, I think. Nothing seemed to matter, right? No explanation, no reason why he has these skills. And yeah, that's why I dropped it right away. I had better things to do.
Yeah. We saw all the way until I think they got the elf girl, whatever episode that was. So probably 5, 6 episodes into it. They showed a lot of these sneak peeks at like the Demon King or whatever the other faction was. And it shows him like getting addicted to the potion, so maybe there's going to be the conflict where he wants him to maybe kidnap him to make potions or something. I'm just making a guess based off of what I've seen and how the stories tend to go. But it's been him just helping people, and then these girls get involved and become part of his, I guess, harem. That's what I'm going to call it.
So how many girls does he have currently?
Well, there's, of course,
There was the
wolf girl, right?
wolf girl.
There's
and then the ghost lady.
The ghost lady. Then there's the brigade leader, a night girl. She gets addicted to his potions as well, and she's kind of like this tsundere, I guess you can kind of say, where she's not completely honest with herself because everyone's like, we need extra potions because someone is drinking them a little too much. She's like, what? How dare you? She's all like that. There's this Aristocat girl that, or not cat girl, but this Aristocat lolly girl that he ends up helping, and she kind of falls in love with him. And I think now we have the elf girl that she's helping, and in the preview of the next episode there's this other girl that they show, so I don't know if she's going to become part of the love interest, but it's just one of those harem isekai now, so
I can't take it.
but it's not like they're
Something else.
yeah, so it's one of those typical things, but I don't know. I don't think I would have ever watched this on my own, but as part of a group, just to have fun, just watching this and just, just let loose and make fun of the show for what it is, and it was somewhat enjoyable. So, and like I said, just reading the comments for each episode on Crunchyroll was also really fun. And also on my anime list for a while, they had a lot of errors where they said that the voice actors for some of these characters also voice male actors in other shows. Like the Wolf Girl, I think, at one point they had it as that she voice acted the Goblin Slayer. Which was real like, what? How? This is no way. So, I think they fixed it now, because when I went back I didn't see it, but it was just insane. But highly not recommendable.
6.51 on Mal. It's just that high, but never mind.
Is it out of 10? Right?
Mal, yeah,
Yeah. So
almost everything has a 7, which is, uh, yeah. Mal rankings are a whole nother story.
okay. Next up, we got which is this
And
title
you're
here?
watching.
Transition. I believe this is the realist. How a realist hero rebuilt a kingdom. This one's on Funimation, and this one is somewhat decent. There were some problems with some of the animation, like lines not being drawn all the way, or just it wasn't clean. But you know, I don't think that's why you watch this show. It follows the manga okay. They did change quite a few things I mentioned at the beginning of the season. But as going forward, they took some stuff that I thought were very impactful and very convincing for the future stories or future events that happen, which I thought was an interesting choice. But other than that, it's been running very decently, and I can't say it's bad, but it's not good or great, I should say. It's just Soma gets summoned there. He's helping develop the country. There's a civil war, so this whole first season's all about him getting into power with the civil war happening, and then Endomia, which is a country to its I think west, invades, and now with the civil war, you also have this country invasion. So, of course, Soma being the hero, unlike others, doesn't have this overpowering skill. It's just that he has his intellect as a person from another world. And what I do appreciate it is that he is a college student, so a lot of the things that he does know I think make a little more sense than saying it's a high school student that really loves history or loves war type of thing. But so rather than being this teenager, it's this older student, and I don't know if they give out his age, but him trying to lead this country into a better place. And so far, it's been really good, and I can't say too much else about it. I know a few other friends that are watching it, and they say that's decent, that they're enjoying it. So it's one of the, I think, few isekais out right now that's passable. Okay, not recommendable, but passable. Like, and I think that's all I can really say about it without spoiling too much. And
Okay.
I don't know.
So when you say it's one of the only that are passable, does that mean everything else is less than passable?
There's
Not passable?
there's only one other title that I think is the higher ranked than this. Everything else, though, I can't say I would recommend. I just, from my personal opinion, because like I've read their source materials and I feel betrayed. So because of that, the other ones I don't like, or I've seen them, but it's just they just took out so much that I'll discuss them when they get here. But it's just this one at least. They changed the order of some things. They maybe moved around a few things here and there on how the story's told compared to how I've read it. But, it's not like even their wars and battles that they're having. It's not like all shonen-esque. It's just these simple battle scenes that are happening. So I can't even recommend it to those action types people that love those shows. And like I said, some of the animation in there is not as great, and like I compared it to the manga to some friends, and they're like, "Whoa, there's a big quality difference." And I'm like, it makes sense. Of course, they have more time with the manga, because I believe this is released like a monthly manga compared to the anime, which is being released weekly for 30 minutes, right? So, but yeah. Next up, we have Albert, which saw Gutter Robo Arc. What's this?
Nothing to say about it because I dropped down the first episode. We talked about in the preview OreAni together. So I have no idea if it turned out better or worse than my initial impressions, but my initial impression was this is not good. Waste your time.
Okay. I was hoping you would talk a little bit longer so I can get the next title card.
No, we should have just skipped it.
Yeah. I thought you saw maybe a little bit more. That's why it was highlighted. Okay, so the next title after that is... how do you say this? Heion Sendai no Itaten Tachi?
Okay, so this is one of the shows that has not finished. It started, I think, weeks late compared to the others. So I forget what episode we're on, but I think it's only like 9 or 10 currently. So in this world, we have a group of gods who have appeared. There's only one god that survived the demon war from 800 years ago, where the other gods sacrificed themselves to seal the demons. And since then, new gods have appeared, and it's hard to describe, but they do not seem to be mankind's salvation. They do not do anything directly to benefit humankind, and it's a interesting take on what exactly are gods for, right? So Japan being mostly secular, but has a lot of Shinto and Buddhist traditions. Their view of gods are quite different. So it's an interesting take on what exactly do you pray to a god for, because clearly people are suffering, and even in the first episode, which is a little controversial for a scene at the very end that rhymes with grape. It's suffering. The people are asking for help, yet these new gods are not doing anything. In fact, the one of the gods is just training to become stronger. The one god that survived from the previous war, she has a backstory and everything, but she is kind of dumb and is just focused on one thing and one thing only. And then there is another god who, Eastleigh, who is the smart guy. He seems to have figured out a few things, but from the way he says things, he is very emotionally detached from people, right? And he says things like, "Oh, before I knew what I was, I experimented on all these people." And it's a throwaway line, but you're like, "Wait, what? What did he do?" And you find out that he can, have surgery essentially on people's brains to make them follow him. So it gets to an interesting point where, yes, it looks like some demons have or might have escaped and are creating a new demon nation. And the whole purpose, it seems, that the gods were first brought into the world is to fight the demons. And that was their sole purpose, because mankind was being eaten and savaged and crushed by the demon kind. So in response to that, the gods spawned out of people's wishes, and since then, now that demons are gone, what are the gods supposed to be doing? So it gets into a kind of an interesting philosophical view. Now, the presentation of the anime is, like I said, a little controversial. It is kind of a dark fantasy, and the character designer, the mangaka, the artwork is Kuo Kyoshinya, who is the author of Kobayashi's Maid Dragon, and I can't understand what my husband is saying. But the actual writing is by a different mangaka. He's just doing the artwork. So you get the typical man likes huge tracts of land. So that is a lot of the character designs, and people, some sensitive people are very offended by that kind of presentation. So be as it may, I have been watching it. I am enjoying it. I'm not exactly sure where this is going, and I know that the manga is still ongoing, so I don't expect a great conclusion for however many episodes this is going to be. But it's brought up some interesting ideas about the role of gods, at least in this made-believe world. So, who would I recommend this to? That's a good question. Well, no, I would have to know them and whether to recommend it or not, because it's a hard one to recommend. It's Heion Sedai no Idaten Tachi, or it's also known as the Idaten deities know only peace. So they grew up in a peaceful time, and conflict is coming, and they be prepared for it.
Is it just that scene in the first episode that makes it hard to recommend, or are there other issues with it as a whole?
They kind of flash back to it a few times, I think, in the later episodes, and I think worse stuff are happening, but they don't show it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably true. So, yeah, the first episode is the most shocking, but it's also, I think people are really offended because it made it seem very comical. But if you've seen things like, Clockwork Orange and a certain scene in that, it's kind of like that. It's mostly for shock value, with a contrast of the horrific thing that is happening, the cruelty and casual behavior that the soldiers exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can't. If you watch the first episode and you get to that scene and you're like, I'm done, then you're done. If you get past it, then you might find something of value. But it's a hard thing to actually recommend to a group of people because of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, like as I was watching it, I don't know. I don't know how to take it. It's just kind of weird because they even talked a lot about it, like when they were in the war, right? About allowing the men to do whatever they wanted with the people there, and also how some of these characters acted. I think it was just a lot with the character design as well that kind of threw me off about it, and how when it was dark because of how they looked, it was kind of hard to take. I don't know how to explain it, but
No, I
uh,
think I understand what you mean because I'm looking at the thumbnails on Crunchyroll and the character designs are really super cute, and just to have them deal with war crimes, there would be sort of a juxtaposition there. Like
It's true.
I would not anticipate looking at the splash page on Crunchyroll that this anime would go to those places.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the content because I would not have pegged this show just from the way it looks to do that.
Right. So again, I think that there's really no hero in this story. They're protagonists, certainly there are anti-heroes, um, but they're overall not very nice people. They're not people, right? They're constructs, and so they're not really nice.
yeah,
Like the problem with this show.
yeah.
So it is Jessica's title.
Oh, for some reason you got muted. I think I saw your mouth move, and I didn't hear anything.
Oh,
Am I muted?
You were. I hear you now. I heard you saying something. Then all of a sudden, I heard you say Jessica. But yeah, let's go to the next title. The next title is Higurashi something something something.
Higurashi no Nakukoro ni Sotsu. Um, I don't really have much more to add than what I said at the beginning. This is my extreme guilty pleasure of moe murder show. Uh, I absolutely love it to pieces that grade schoolers are beating each other up with chairs, baseball bats, ooh, a fork in the last episode. It's delightful. The only thing I have to add that's new is that the censoring is pretty subjective. There are some episodes where it's just four sheets to the wind, violence and gore with nothing censored. And then there are other episodes where it is heavily censored, and I don't know why. Um, so yeah, that just might be something to know going in. But like I said before, if you are not already a fan of Higurashi, you are not going to like this at all. This is designed for probably 6 people on the planet that are warped enough like me to appreciate the finer points of schlock horror. So
Mm.
that's all I really got to say, unless there are any questions.
So when the announced this originally, and this is a second season or second core. Wait, how does that
It's
work?
it's the second half of the soft reboot that's not really a reboot, but it acted like it was.
Right,
Um,
right. I mean, from the get go, it seemed weird that they were touting it as a reboot when clearly it didn't seem like it, right? So you think it could attract new viewers with what's been going on, or could you? I guess did you have to watch the first, original to really get into this show because it
yes,
seemed.
I think you do. I think you do. Because it refers back to events that happen in the first show and expects you to have knowledge of them in order for it to make sense. But the crazy thing is that it doesn't do that until probably about halfway into the first season. Because I thought, oh, this is just a remake of the original. And then come to find out, no, that was a red herring. It's actually not a remake because Higurashi's all about time loops, right? So it's just another set of time loops that we're going through.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's why I said that I am really shocked that this even got another season greenlit, because it can't appeal to that many people, because there are, what, 50 plus episodes of Higurashi that one would have to watch in order for one to enjoy this season. And those are out of print and hard to find now. So unless you watched them back in 2006 when it first came out by Studio Dean, you're not gonna really get much out of this, I don't think.
It is unfortunate.
Yeah.
All right.
Because like I said, schlock horror, there's so few anime that do horror, and this is one of the classics of that.
We'd recommend it to people who hate children.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't like kids, and that could be why I like this. It's just these kids murdering one another constantly. I'm a terrible person, really.
But we love you.
Thank you.
Oh man.
Jessica,
Yes.
did you want to talk about the pirate princess, or should we gloss over that?
Well, I've only seen the first episode, so I
I've
don't know.
also only seen the first episode.
Okay, I like it, and I want to continue watching it, but because it started so late in the season, I completely forgot about it until yesterday.
Okay, so we'll hold
It-
off on
it's-
that. Or,
It's cute though.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
like, I don't know. I also recommend people watch the first episode. Anything after that, I don't know. But the art is very cute. It's almost
Agreed.
Disney-like.
Yes, yes, I wanted to bring that
Like,
up, is that
the colors
there's
and
a lot
stuff.
of thought that's put into the character designs, and they all look unique and really enhance the characters from what little screen time they've had already.
okay.
It's not a realistic take on piracy.
No.
I mean,
No,
So it's not like Bodacious Pirates or whatever that one was?
Bodacious Space Pirates is extremely accurate to the historical pirate, definitely.
Okay, so we'll go to the title after that, which is called Kanojo mo Kanojo.
all yours. Take it away.
Yeah, so I decided to put myself through some torture and watch Kanojo mo Kanojo, because like after the first episode I was like, oh my god, this is so stupid. I don't want to watch any more of this. And then after, I guess, a month or so, I had one person say that they were watching it and that they were enjoying it. I'm like, what? How can you enjoy that? So I decided, okay, I'm going to watch this, and I know no one else is going to be watching this in our group, so I might as well go ahead and put myself through it and see if it's really as bad as it is, or maybe there is a silver lining. And the only thing that made me excited about the show was when they introduced the new girl, and I was like, oh, it's Kiriro's voice, and I thought about Nathan from back in the day. But other than that, it's just so crazy. So the guy is dating two girls, which they call it, he's two-timing them, but I don't get how you can call it two-timing when they all agree on it. So whatever. But they also want to keep it a secret, so that the main childhood friend doesn't lose face by knowing that she has to share her love interest and but not Nagisa, the girl that ended up joining later. Um, she's just too passive and dedicated, almost to the point where she's almost like Naoya, the main guy, in a sense, with how she thinks things through, where she's very passionate about what she does and she follows through to it to an extreme sense. And you find out why. It's because she's like not very good at many things, so when she does something, she puts a lot of effort into it to try to at least be average. But because of the backstory they tell later on how she met Naoya and how she felt, that she now wants to put even more effort in. But it's just back and forth between Nagisa and Saki trying to hide the secret, and conflicts that are happening for them to try to be together at the same time, but not show it to everyone else. And Uruka, which is the blonde girl that ends up joining, she finds out about their secret, but they also got dirt on her. So she decides that she wants to join them, but Naoya's like, oh, please, I can 2-time, but I can't 3-time. I got standards, whatever. So it becomes this whole circle thing where she was denied, so that's why she puts in the effort to try to join in the group. Kind of like, how dare you not want to date me? I'll prove to you that I'm worth dating. And then eventually, because of that, she does fall in love with him because of something he does to help protect her. And she decides that she's going to, rather than join the group, try to steal Naoya from them. And then we get the fourth girl, which we now found out at the very last episode what her thing is. So, but other than that, it's a lot of yelling back and forth, him, professing his love, but then nothing really goes anywhere because, one doesn't want to get ahead of the other to create conflict within each other. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, the last 2 episodes are all in a hot spring, so yay, we got that hot spring thing scene going on. But other than that, yeah, it's not really that good.
At least so bad you can make fun of it.
I don't know, like, how you would make fun of it, because it's, I don't know, it just,
Okay.
I mean, some funny stuff does happen every once in a while, but it's just, I can't explain it. This show is just weird, and yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to people. So, and I don't know what my friend saw in it that made him love this show so much. Maybe.
Did your friend like Rent a Girlfriend?
Maybe, I can't remember which friend that was. A lot of people loved Rent a Girlfriend for some reason in my group. I was like, how could you guys like that? But they all agree, though, except for like 2 of them, that they love Mommy. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? They're like, no, from a character perspective, like the design, not her attitude. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Okay,
Artist, right?
question your friendship.
So, yeah, this show, I don't know. Like, I'll admit, I was getting a little more interested when Shino appeared, which is the silver-haired girl. But then once I saw the end of that whole arc, I was like, oh no, okay, whatever. Yeah, whatever. This show. I mean, I think they just added what is her name? Rika, the blonde girl, just for TNA. So yeah. Let's see what's next on the list. We'll do the movies at the end for people who are talking in our personal chat. Because I don't know if I have the title card for it, so we can put it at the end. But next up is Kobayashi Maid Dragon, which just finished this week, right?
I'm behind, so I don't actually know.
Yeah, it did finish.
Yeah, it is finished. And
Is it KyoAni's triumphant return?
I would say with the first episode was really cool looking, and it brought about a lot of the action and stuff that was really fun. But I would say that overall I was a little disappointed because it's Kobayashi's Maid Dragon, right? But it seemed to focus a lot on all the other characters and their backstories. So Kobayashi really wasn't there too much until near the end. That's how I felt. Now, the side stories and stuff, I don't think were too bad, but just I think they did too much with Kana and her friends.
Mm-hmm.
She has her own spin-off manga, I believe, so a
I
popular
can see-
character.
She's cute. She's really super cute. Mm.
But they did have a lot of really good moments, a lot of good things for some of the backstory, like with Toru and what was the other girl's name that works with Kobayashi?
Irma?
Elma? Yeah. I like that.
Irma, yeah.
I did really enjoy that side story with them.
Mm-hmm.
And also we got to see baby Kobayashi, or little Kobayashi, or not Kobayashi, Toru. It's a baby dragon. I thought that was really cute. And but I would say overall it was really enjoyable. It did have quite a few moments where I was like, oh my god, with Iruru, because you know of her character
Yeah.
design,
Yes.
and her playing with the candy shop boy. I guess I'll call him that. But
I don't think I've gotten that far yet,
but
but I can imagine.
but there were other moments that I thought were pretty funny with like Shotakun, whatever his name is, and him. There was a story where he wanted to be more like a man, so he went to Kobayashi's friend, and when he learned the truth of what he really is, not the business worker but his otaku life, he was like so shocked, and I was like laughing like everything. But overall, it's just a bunch of little stories that they do give us some more backstory on a few of the other characters, and why they're into their factions, or why they were considered certain beings in their world. But other than that, it was just a nice casual show to watch. I mean, there's nothing bad about it. Everything looked great 100% throughout the whole thing. There was no hiccups or anything that I can say, oh man, they did really bad in that episode, or they had production issues or anything. Nothing like that. Everything went smooth. Everything was nice. And at the end, when they wrapped it up, I was actually really happy with how they ended the show. It could have been better, I think, but I'm not disappointed for what I saw, I guess I'll say.
I would say it's pure comfort food. So while it doesn't do anything that will knock it out of the park with the way KyoAni can do, like with Violet Evergarden or whatnot, it's heartwarming and solid, and I wouldn't call it an Iyashikei anime, but it kind of was, just because knowing the background of KyoAni, to see the studio come back from that was a little bit healing and nice to know that, hey, they're trying, they're back. So for me, it was the meta text that was really the most important part of it. And like I said, I haven't finished it yet, but I do intend to, because it just gives you good fluffy feelings all around when you watch it.
Yep. So that was Kobayashi's Maid Dragon. I will say this though, I thought they were going to do a lot more of Iruru with how they started the series, and that kind of just fell flat, I think, because it seemed that there's going to be a lot more with her, but nothing happened. So let's go to the next title. Let me close some tabs here while we get rid of there. Oh, this show. The Goddess Dormitory. I believe that's what it is. Mother of the Goddess Dormitory, yeah. Megami yo no Ryobo Kun. I think it's actually one of the smaller series this season with only 10 episodes. So it was very short, but it did start late, and it is on High Dive, and they have 3 different versions of it, surprisingly, which I thought was hilarious. They have the uncensored version, and then they have a see-through version, which is basically half censored, half not, and then they have the full censored version, which we were laughing about. And overall, it is an Edo anime, so a lot of TNA. If you're not looking for that, this is not your show. And if you're okay with that, this is definitely your show. Got all these college students, females in this house that get into different situations. Now, it happening with this boy is kind of questionable, because what is he like 14 years old or something like that. But overall, I thought it was okay and funny. And Athena, which is the girl that has probably the most straight-headed out of all of them, is the only one that tries to do anything to help censor the show in a way, and to be the most clear-minded. Is a nice character. The other characters are very eccentric and have their own just bizarre qualities. You got Minerva, which is like the scientist who's always doing strange experiments, and her experiments caused havoc with everyone. Freya, which is my favorite, which is like she's a cosplayer, so she's always trying to get people to dress into cosplay. And then the other characters, and we do have one childhood friend that appears later on that's really worried about the boy, since they're childhood friends, and she learned that he was without a house and was running into all these problems, but she could do nothing to help him because she's a child. So there was a small little moment there where she really wants to help him, but she's also kind of like a tsundere, where she's not forthcoming with her feelings. So whenever something does happen, she gets really embarrassed and ends up hitting him. But you could tell she has that feelings, because whenever something happens with him and another girl, she's super angry and beats him up still. So it is one very funny thing about it, though, that you can watch its opening and ending themes done by the voice actresses, I believe, dressed in character for the opening and ending song on YouTube and stuff. Kind of like what they did with Kobayashi last season, right? They had the opening with the voice actress dressed up, so that was fun. But other than that, how far did you get, Albert? I think did you have it marked or?
Episode 1, I was done. Yeah, I knew what it was, and so I had other things to do.
Yeah. So this one I did watch with my group of friends. So we finished it yesterday, and we were happy. We all discussed who our favorite characters were, and I can't say that we were displeased. But then we all have low standards. Next up here is, let me see if I can find this Black Company thing, right? I only saw the first episode of this and didn't give it any other chance, but it seems that Jessica tried to give it a little more of a chance, or?
Actually, no. I just saw the first episode and bailed.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I probably shouldn't have marked it down because I'm not thinking of returning to it.
Is that the same thing with you, Albert?
I read the manga, so I don't think the anime brought anything new to it. And, overall, it's just bad people trying to do bad things to even worse people so they can get ahead. And it's fine on the pages of a manga because you could just zip through. I didn't care for the pacing, and I don't really care for the animation either. And it wasn't gonna be different enough or bring anything new, like I said. So I dropped it.
Okay. So then let's go to the next title, which someone moved on our list. Well, I don't have the title card for that, so we'll just call it Fate Grand Order for now. That's
Close enough.
That's the card I got. But it's, what is this? Neon Genesis Evangelion 1.1 plus 3.3 equals 2.2.
The square root of 1.
Oh.
1 and 3. Okay, we have a ridiculous title on our spreadsheet. I tend to call this movie Rebuild 4, or, Evangelion 4.0, because the actual name is very convoluted. The actual name of this thing is Shin Evangelion Geki Choban, and then there's a symbol that has something to do with musical notation. Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 thrice upon a time. That is the full name of this thing. Jessica gave us an interesting stipulation, which is no spoilers. I would love to just get into it and be like, and then Gendo does this, but trying to articulate our feelings about this thing without describing plot points sounds fun.
Well, okay. How about this? I will leave, and you
No,
guys.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm saying that it's interesting.
If you want to discuss it, that's fine. I will leave, and you guys just text me when you want to come back. When.
No, I think we can do it without spoilers.
Okay.
I think so.
It's possible.
All right. Good.
Just need to be vague.
Yeah. I guess I'll start off by saying that I wasn't a big fan of Rebuild 3, because it went way too fast, and it introduced a whole lot of like weird plot mechanics, and there wasn't much grounding for, like, the battles felt like they didn't have much stakes because the stakes weren't clearly established. It's just like Shinji is thrust into this weird future where everything's falling apart, and there are all these like weird factions, and the mecha, just, I don't know, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and then Shinji's just like thrust into the robot and has to fight, and the fight scenes are very hard to decode, and the mechanics of what happens in them is very cryptic unless you're like really, really in tune with the lore. So I was hoping that like Rebuild 4 would kind of, for one thing, how long is it? Was it like 2.5 hours long or 3.5?
2.5.
Wait a minute. I have the Wikipedia page open. 155 minutes. Yeah, okay. So it's like 2.5. So it's a lot longer than Rebuild 3, which was like 90 minutes. And so it has more space to, like, the Shinji and the gang get kind of a taste of normalcy in this movie. You know, it kind of returns to the old Evangelion TV show rhythm of, like, you know, Shinji starts, you know, getting his shit together. He starts making friends. He makes solid connections. You know, he finds value in the work that he's doing. He makes some headway into reconnecting with his dad, and then eventually all that gets ripped away from him. Like that's the general pattern of the TV show. Like that happens 3 or 4 times, and that's the show. So this movie fortunately tries to repeat that pattern. And so I was happy for that. You know, it doesn't just get right into crazy action and just like delirious lore points that's like impossible to decode as you're watching it. You know, it feels like there's some stakes to the crazy battles that happen, even though the battles are still crazy and over the top. And it's not really my preference for Evangelion. Like they're so absurd they kind of come off as like a parody of themselves.
Yeah, I can see that.
But as like a general description of the thing, I think it's more structurally satisfying than the previous one.
2.0 was such a huge departure, right, from the expectations of 2.0. So you start watching Evangelion, the Rebuild movies. 1.0 pretty much follows that first arc. I forget how many episodes it is, but of the TV show with a few changes. Like, okay, you know, I get it. Then 2.0 drops, you get a new character, you get a little bit more, I think, interesting world building. You start to deviate from the TV show or I think the Rebuild, not the Rebuild, compilation movie timelines, right? So it's like now you know that you're kind of in an alternate timeline. And you can kind of throw out some expectations, and you see that, you know, Shinji actually grows a pair and does something out of his own will. So even though it doesn't end very well, you can at least cheer for that character growth. And then 3.0 comes in, it just chucks it. Chucks it all over the place, and you're like, what is going on with this film? You could kind of see Alan was making 3.0 during his depression phase, right? Certainly felt like that to me. And I went into 4.0, which is streaming on Amazon Prime all over the world. A lot of trepidation, and I did not prepare myself by watching 1, 2, and 3 again. I just went into it with the vague notions of what the hell happened in 3, which way too much happened in 3 for that 90 minutes. I came out of this first half of the movie. It opens up, well, actually, it opens up with a fantastical, you know, action sequence, and you realize how screwed the world is. And it goes into a slice of life, which was interesting, and how long it took. But it took its time, and I could see that it was necessary for events to work itself out, right? Then we finally get towards the end, and what I'm happy with having watched it, and like many people, I think not all of it has to make sense, because there's certainly I can't even explain or even describe what the hell was going on, but seems like it took everything that Ono had in the past, since the very beginning of Evangelion, even before that, all his ideas, and he was able to bring it to a satisfying catharsis for him. So I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with how the movie ended, and I see parallels with other shows that have similar themes, and things that people said were derivative of Evangelion at the time, but I'm fine with that, and it kind of ties together everything in the Evangelion universe, multiverse, and yeah, I started a rewatch of 1 and 2. I need to rewatch 3, and I kind of want to watch this again, and especially with watch it in Japanese, of course. But I'd like to watch it in English, so I'm rewatching 1 and 2, and I haven't gotten to 3 yet, and then I do plan to watch it. 3.1 plus 1.0. Just call it 4. So I'm gonna watch 4 again in English probably. But I think he did it. You know, it was not the completely unsatisfactory ending of the TV show. It's not the unsatisfactory ending of the Rebirth movies. I feel relieved this movie and Evangelion is done.
What? No human instrumentality project?
Well, I don't know. Let's not talk about that. I mean, of course, there's going to be instrumentality stuff in the ending of Evangelion, but anyway,
you may want to rewatch the first 3 movies because it has been a long time since movie 3, and I completely forgot what happened. And they're showing scenes. I'm like, wait, did that actually happen? I'm getting older. My memory's not what it is. But yeah, you may want to watch 3, which is streaming on Amazon Prime. So watch it.
Okay, I didn't know this movie was there. I gotta watch it.
Everyone, all the AniTubers have talked about it and given their opinion about it. So try to avoid all of them. They all have their own opinions and own history with it. And I think it was more impactful for people who grew up with it. I was already past that stage. But I do see all the struggles that Anno went through to make this and finish this film.
it's impressive in kind of a Metal Gear Solid 4 way of like there's this sprawling, extremely convoluted canon, and this thing has to tie it all together and try to make it make sense. And yeah, it mostly works for what it's worth. The funny thing is, like, I'm one of those people that grew up with Evangelion, and it, like, reading opinions of this thing online is interesting because it says a lot about like the person who wrote the opinion, like even more than like what it says about the movie itself.
That
I'm
could be a whole story by itself, right?
I'm one of those people that that by the time of Eva 3 or Rebuild 3, I was like, this Rebuild thing is garbage. It doesn't need to exist. So by the time I got to Rebuild 4, which is like a decade later, you know, I was like, okay, well, let's see how Anno can he bring all this thing together into something that kind of makes sense, and he does. So that's cool. But as I was watching like the revelations of like, and here's this character's backstory and motivations, and here's this character's backstory and motivations, I kind of realized that I already knew these things about these characters, and this wasn't like new information. You know, if you can read between the lines of, you know, original 90s Evangelion and, you know, make assumptions about like what are Gendo's motivations, like why is he the way he is and why is he doing what he's doing, then you can get pretty close to the answer that they provide in this movie. So I guess it's impressive that he was able to pull it together and make it make sense, but also I still think that this rebuild series doesn't really need to exist. That you could just watch 90s Evangelion and get like most of the value out of that.
See, I would think I would disagree with that. Felt completely unsatisfied with the TV show and the film's ending. So this to me it brings closure, and in a closure in a good way. So
Yeah, if you need the closure, then the movie will provide it. Like it does wrap up all the things.
not all of it, but enough of it.
Enough of it. Yeah.
And when I watched that the final scene, it just reminded me, in my mind, the TV show's final scene with all the clapping. That's what was going through my head. You did it. You did it, Ano. So, you can go make Ultraman and any tokusatsu films that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Heart's content.
I guess what I was left with is I still don't know who Mari is, and I guess I have to read the manga because I think the manga is where Mari is important. That's what I've heard anyway.
The manga adaptation of the films?
No, the what's his name? Yoshiyuki Sadamoto's manga series that started in like the mid 90s and continued up until just recently. Like it's very long running Evangelion manga.
And I was kind of surprised that the manga itself is like a separate multiverse or separate timeline, right? And Ano took elements from that, brought it into the film, the rebuilt film universe. So, yeah, you can find people talking about it, but
I've got something of a pet theory, which I've had since movie 3, so it's not really a spoiler. That the TV show and the manga and the movie series are loops through this cycle of reincarnation where Shinji unsuccessfully wields the instruments of creation and then just ends up recreating the scenario of Evangelion again. So I tend to look at it that way, and if you watch the movies with that in mind, you'll see hints that might be true. I haven't like looked up the sort of like fan consensus of like the fan consensus interpretation of that, so I don't really know like what the meta interpretation is. That's just kind of like a pet theory that a friend of mine and I have.
It's one way to look at it. You're not wrong, and only in Ano's head would you know if you're actually right. But
I think one of the big indicators was like maybe in Rebuild 1 or 2, there's this streak of blood across the moon. And if you remember, there's this during the instrumentality of the end of Evangelion, the movie back in the 90s, like giant Ray had her neck cut open and blood spilled out and like left a streak of blood across the moon or something like that. So there are all these little hints like that where it's like Rebuild might take place after instrumentality. It's some sort of recreated universe, and Shinji is in a prison of his own making, reliving these events. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah. So if you haven't read, there's a Evangelion doujinshi way back, where clearly Asuka is best girl in that doujinshi, and it goes follows a path of what you're describing, right? That it's a loop and redos and multiple universes converging. So, if you can find it or a scan of it, it's worth reading for that. If you haven't already. I'll try to actually. I think AniTuber talked about it, and that's how I knew about it. So I'll send you that info.
All right. Next up, we got My Life. I should have pulled this up earlier. Sorry. My Next Life as a Villainess. All Routes Lead to Doom X.
Mifura X.
X. The second season, which
Can
is
tell me
number
about
10. So, let me see here. Anyone else watch it? Oh, Jessica.
Yeah, I haven't finished it though.
Oh,
I know, I'm bad. I honestly I loved the first season and I thought it ended in a really good place, so I didn't particularly see the need for a second season, but I love Katarina and all the humor, so I figured, okay, what the heck. And it's just more of the same thing. So, at least as far as I've gotten into it, if you liked the first season, you'll like the second season.
how far did you get, just out of curiosity?
Ooh, halfway through, I think. I'd have to look on Crunchyroll.
Okay, so the first half, I think it's just them with Katarina living her new life where she feels that she avoided all the death flags, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now she's just living her life, being carefree, and it's coming towards the end of the school season for some of them, and it's just them showing how much they love her and everything, right? Them always fawning over her and weird things. They did give us a little jump scare, I would say, with her in a theater, and I was like, "Wait, what happened to Catalina?" But that was just a fun little jump scare, I would say that was really fun. You definitely need to watch the first season to continue the second season. But it after a few episodes, I'll say maybe 4 or so, they do start getting into some new arcs where she gets kidnapped, and we're introduced to another character for her harem. And once that's resolved, then we get into some more antics with Katarina and her carefree attitude, and how all the other characters are after her. But the prince actually starts trying to be more proactive in the second half of the series in his conquest to be, or let her know that, Katerina, you're my fiance, right? And I'm here. And it gets pushed back a little bit by the last arc, which is actually, I thought, was pretty heavy for how the rest of the series was. And I was really surprised by it. And so I'm not going to say too much for Jessica's sake, because it was really fun arc and what happened. And I wasn't expecting it to happen the way it did. But I will say this. At the end of the whole season, she has this vision of my life as a villainess, or that game that she played. What was it? Fortune something? Made a second game. So there's possibility of a whole new season based off of this other game that she has no idea about. So they left it open so that they can continue on with the series. But if you love the first season, like she said, this is definitely some more fun for it. If you feel that you've already seen everything that you need to see because of the first season, then that's fair. I mean, I'm not going to force you to say you have to watch this if you've seen it. But just to let you know, if you have nothing else to watch and you're like, what can I spend my time doing? This is a nice little filler thing to step into to fill out your next season.
Oh, for sure. I always felt better after watching an episode of this show than when I sat down. It's really cute and funny, and just you'll have a good time.
I would say that the council doesn't show up as often as it did in the first one.
No, little disappointed by that. I loved her counsel.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen as often, but we do get um, some more characters introduced, like the student council president and stuff, and how they all feel about her and how her character is, and also securing her future. But other than that, great series. I mean, I forgot this is actually isekai, right? So I
Yeah.
guess this is one of those isekais where I'm going to say it's worth it. It's for comedy at least. You have anything to add, or
Not really, no. I think you did well.
yeah, bring back the council. The next title we have, which is we're going to ask Albert to take over because none of us have seen to watch it. Peach Boy, Riverside.
Okay. Beach Boy Riverside. So, talked about it briefly at the preview OreAni discussion. But this is another manga that is written by Cool Kyoshinja of Maid Dragon, and I can't understand what my husband is saying. Name. So he is a very busy man. Anyway, so this takes a twist on the tales of the Peach Boy from Japanese folklore, Momotaro, who, along with, is found in a peach floating down the river by old woman, old man, just like many folk tales. Is taken in, grows up to be, strong, and goes on a quest to free the people from the Oni, who are plaguing the land. And along the way, he gets three companions: a dog, a monkey, and a pheasant. They go fight, they win, and lived happily ever after. Right. So that's the folk tale. And in this one, it is later revealed or is hinted that the Oni left Japan, feudal Japan, and went elsewhere, and this is where that elsewhere is. It takes place. So it seems. And the problem with this show is that the director made the decision to chop up the story into different segments, and then shuffle them around. He had a reason for doing it, but let me just say that it does not work. Okay, it does not work at all. So the first shuffle occurred because it didn't quite make sense to have the backstory of Sally as the first episode. You want to introduce the other characters right off the bat, so I get that, and then you can have a flashback to the the first episode, or in the manga, or yeah, it's just a manga, of her backstory and her first meeting with Mikoto, who also has supernatural powers of slaying the Oni. They're just, I think they're referred to as either demons or ogres in the English language, but I can't remember. So, so that makes sense. But then around episode 4, it jumps quite a bit forward, and you have no idea who the characters that are talking. You have no idea the circumstances, and it makes no sense, right? And the director, what he wanted to do, I believe, is to ask the question, because Sally is rather pure-hearted, believes in the goodness of people and of non-human people, right? Like the rabbit folks and even the Oni, that they can coexist. So she is offering her hand in peace. And so I understand that the director wanted to pose that question that happens to her later, early on, so that you can follow her growth as she ponders what it means to be human, what it means to have these powers, what it means to offer peace to the other beings that live in this world. But in practice, it doesn't work at all because it's so shuffled. There are three other places where in this 12 episode, it cuts to a complete different part of the timeline. And you have no idea as a viewer, unless you read the manga, you have no idea, wait, who is this new character that's just appearing? Why is this character missing? What happened to this character? What part of the timeline of this story am I on? So it is a complete and utter mess, and I don't want this director to direct anything else. So if you're interested in the story, I would say read the manga, which it becomes a lot more interesting. It's not just about the Oni and Sally's attempt to make peace with them. There's the backstory of all the other characters, the tragedy that happened in Japan, in old Japan, and the machinations that is happening behind the scenes by several characters that you do meet and several characters that are that appear, and you realize there is a war between the heaven and probably hell, you think, and things, storylines that intermingle with some of the characters that you meet. So I'm not making a very good description of it, but the anime is a complete failure.
All right. Thank you for that. Speaking of failures, the next title, Seirei Gensoki.
Oh.
Failure. I watched to the end because I'm a dreamer. I was hoping it would get better. But I believe Jessica, you guys stopped, right? Or
We did, yes. My husband is a huge fan of the light novels. And after every episode, and sometimes during the episode, he would exclaim, "What? Why did they do that? What did it?" He would get all in a tizzy about it, and then give me a complete rundown of everything they changed and why it was horrible. And even not having read the light novel, it was terribly directed. Is that there would be a scene that happens, and then we'd realize that, oh, it was a flashback, and the character would be around in the present doing something, and then there would be another flashback of the flashback that they opened the episode with. And there was no need to chop the continuity up like that. It wasn't fun to watch because you end up seeing the same material 2 or 3 times in a single episode. So, yeah, I can't remember how far we got. I want to say 4 or 5 episodes, but he was not amused. And I would have given up probably at episode 2, I think, if we hadn't been watching it together. But you soldiered on, Tank. You fought the good fight, and what do you have to show for it exactly? Besides broken dreams.
they destroyed a lot of things that I thought were very impactful within the book.
Mm-hmm.
That they took out, and I'm like, wait, how could you take that? Like, I was in tears when I read that, and you just took that all out of the anime. How could you? I was like mentally putting myself in this place where I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm not gonna cry. And then it never happens. I'm like, what? I was just so shocked with a lot of the moments where they just cut so much things. And I admit, some points I did appreciate, or not, I guess necessarily appreciate, but I understand why they cut certain things or changed it for time's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's this point where he goes to the royal capital, and in the book he travels back and forth, and it takes a few months for these journeys to happen. But rather than having to go back and forth and everything, they just made it so that it all happened at that one trip to the capital. So I understood that. But then they do this whole montage and didn't explain certain things that happened in the book. That I was like, wait a minute, this certain thing was supposed to happen and it didn't, and now we're, it drove me crazy. I guess I'm just too spoiled with the book. That's the only thing I could say that made me not enjoy this. So maybe if I didn't know the source material, I would have maybe enjoyed it a little bit more, because I was so heavily invested into the source material. Because probably like your husband, I've seen read all the books multiple times. Like up, what is there, like 15 books, right, or something like that?
Yeah, 15 just came out, I think.
Yeah, and like even when they were being translated and they would release them on J-Novel, part 1, like, oh, it's out this week, yay, and start reading that little part.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt betrayed by some of these moments and how they changed things around. And
I don't think it's a case of, oh, I've read the book and nothing will ever live up to the book. It's the direction was problematic, even without me having knowledge of the book and the story. It was not competently put together.
yeah,
So, yeah, I feel bad for everyone that read the novels, because the consensus seems to be that these are some pretty solid stories and they're really enjoyable and they're not like other isekai and whatnot, and the anime just did not do the novels justice, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, and I just wish there was a little bit more done, and it really saddened me, like, that I can't. I don't know, just upsetting. Um, and I will say one other thing that kind of bugged me was, like, I knew the main character was voiced by whatever his name is for Kirito. So it was kind of awkward just listening to him always whisper.
Mm.
Because it's not like they try to make him seem like he's this proper, always talking with, formal language and everything. But to get it across, he's always kind of whispering, like, oh, I'm so sorry for what happened. It didn't really sound like he was just speaking in a formal language like normal. It was always like he was always whispering, which made it seem really weird.
Mm.
But yeah, just like one of the moments. I don't think you care for spoilers. This is gonna be a spoiler that I'm gonna say.
Oh, yeah, I'm not planning on picking this up, so go for it.
So one of the moments was there's this thing called yobai, I think, which is night crawling, where the guy sneaks into the girl's room and they have, I guess, consensual sex.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it wasn't consensual. So, Ryoma does interfere with it and saves the person and beats the guy half to death because when he caught him, he had a flashback of his mother being killed, and he saw the fear in the girl's face. And one thing that they did in the book versus the anime was that the people who visited, which they cut out a lot of the interaction with them out, healed the perpetrator. But in the book, Ryoma stepped in to help heal because he wasn't able to do it properly, and also casted a hypnotic thing on him to fear Ryoma even more. so that they can get answers, and he did it secretly, which I thought was one of those really cool moments. That was like he was just totally struck with fear, but they cut all that out and just there were just these things that I was like, oh, man, that was just an iconic moment in the book that I thought was really cool. That they just kept on cutting out these iconic things, and plus the animation. I showed you some scenes where it was just so bad that layering was done improperly and things, a lot of repeated animation things, but yeah, I mean, highly recommend the book. Read the book. But the anime, you can skip. I mean, it's not so terrible that it's like never watch it. I would say watch it if you've never seen any of the source. You may enjoy it. But other than that, it's just me personally. I can't give it my blessing. Sadness. The next title up is this Shinigami Botchan to Kuro Maid. The Death Duke and his Maid. And this one I was actually never planning to watch. I didn't think it was going to be good at all based off of what I read, what I heard from some people at the beginning of the season. But then one person told me a little bit about it, and then I started watching it. And I have to say, I was really happy with it, watching it. What about you, Albert?
I finished it. There's a couple of problems. One is the manga, I believe, is still ongoing. So, and season 2 has been greenlit. I don't think they have scheduled it. But it wasn't the most popular show or talked about show. I don't know how well it did in the ratings, but it still got a season 2, which is okay. Story-wise, the main character is cursed with a death touch. So anything that comes into contact with him will die, whether it be plant, animal, or even people. Right? So you figure that during this story, he is going to try to break that curse. Yet much of the story is a slice of life. Not that I don't enjoy it, I just felt like the important story should move forward a bit more. There are hints and intrigues that they drop throughout the show that give you ideas about what's going on, who might have cursed him, and the characters that might know something more, right? Especially since it was a witch that he was cursed by, and that he friends at least 2 witches, and potentially has met several others. And it's the same with his maid Alice, who seems to have her own tragic backstory after the protagonist. I don't think he's ever referred to by name. Good question. Anyway, they refer to him as Botchan, or His Grace.
Or
or older brother, right? His sister comes and visits him. So I just felt like the story don't progress as much. But if there is a season 2, which there apparently is, I'm hoping a lot more will be revealed, and some of the clues that are dropped will up nicely. It is a full CG anime, like in the vein of High Score Girl, but it doesn't quite have that charm. And, when they're just sitting down and kind of talking with each other, it's fine. But I found that the full body motion of these CG characters moving doesn't quite work for whatever reason. It just looks janky to me. So I had some issues with the animation. I had some issues with the pacing of the story. And, you know, uh, it's it's fine. I finished it, unlike many others that started the season. But I can't really, highly recommend it. Um, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So with my take on it, it's like the reason why I didn't want to watch it at the beginning was I heard that the animation was terrible, and that the story wasn't really all that great. You know, him cursed and him going to try to find the answer to his curse was never really explained to me. So to me, I just thought this was going to be a pretty boring show with him traveling around trying to get his cure to his curse with this girl that's just randomly sexually harassing him. But upon watching it, everything changed on my opinion on the show. Maybe it's because I was thinking a lot less of it at the beginning. That's why I probably enjoyed it way more than I would have. But like I've seen Kusa, which is another CG anime that was really done terrible, but the story in it was well enough that I could follow and keep on watching it. So I figured, I just got to go with this with no expectations of the animation and not care about that and just go with what's happening. And I was surprised to see that it almost seemed it was like 100% almost kind of like a slice of life show, because as far as it came to the curses wasn't really explored too much. I mean, he always mentioned that he's got to find a cure or find a way to dispel it, but it's like he never really actively did anything to try to do much in the show for it. I mean, when he did meet those witches and he did ask for their help, but other than that, I mean, there is nothing really visible showing that he was trying to, like, 100% trying to break this thing. And I realized with the sexual harassment and everything that while it does happen, there's all these things happening going on, but it was actually kind of a nice little. It wasn't like she was doing it to be mean to him or playing around with him. You really do feel this connection between the two, between the Bochan and the maid, and I kind of liked it. I admit that the play with them was a little rough at times, but then it made me kind of, I don't know how to say it, kind of like cringe, not cringe, but just like they want to touch, but they can't, and they get to these so close moments. I'm like, oh man, I feel so sorry for these guys, and it kind of triggered that whole I love tragedy thing. I'm like, this is just torture for these two, that they're living in this whole thing, and they can't do anything about it right now. So I did have fun once knowing that it wasn't just her playing around like frivolously. It was more or less that these two did have feelings for each other that made it a little more, I guess, wholesome. It made one. I can kind of say it was a little bit, and but a lot of other things did also attract me, like the music. The music was very beautiful. I love the music that they played throughout the whole show, and the backgrounds were done somewhat interesting because it always seemed like it was painted on a canvas. They had the texture and everything there as if it was a canvas for all the backgrounds. So that was kind of interesting to see. So overall, I think I really enjoyed the show and was happy that I did pick it up. But I am a little more interested in seeing how he's going to break the curse, because I kind of, by this point, they do make me want to cheer on the main guy and the maid. And I think by doing that, making me actually cheer for them to be successful and stuff, that they hit a good mark for me and made me invested to see how far this is going to go and see if they will get the happy ending or if it's not going to be happy at all. And also his little brother is hilarious with all of his self-destruction with the number 2. That's all I could say about that. So anything else? Any other questions, or we done with that one?
Something else.
Okay, next up we have this is all Albert. I kind of wanted to watch this. Oops, what happened? But I never got around to it.
Yeah, so this will be an investment because I'll tell you that right off the bat that this is a two-core series. Okay. So Aquatope on White Sand is a original work from PA Works. So, like PA Works, there have been hits and misses, but mostly hits. There are various adaptations and also their originals. We've talked about a bunch of them before. The thing that attracted me, obviously, because it's not just PA Works, it's not just an original, it's also the team that did Irozuku. What was the other word? What was the title in English? Hold on, let me look it up real quick. PA Works. So, they did a show called Irozuku, The World in Colors, in fall of 2018. So this was original works. I quite enjoyed it. It was a one-core show, 13 episodes, about a world where they had a little bit of magic in it, and this one girl was unable to see colors, and her grandmother had saved up magic to send her back in time to try to solve this problem. So, except for the little bit of a fantastical magic part, it was a charming show. I really enjoyed it. So the Aquatope is by the same team. I believe it's the director and the writer, and many returning people, obviously, from PA Works. It's also set in Okinawa, which is unusual. Irozuku was set in Nagasaki, so it was not in Tokyo, like many, many, many shows, which is refreshing. And this one is set in Okinawa. And it is about 2 girls. I'm not sure, I don't think they've said this is part of the Working Girl series, so it's not similar to Hanasaku Iroha, Shirobako, and Sakura Quest. So it doesn't seem to be part of that, but it kind of follows this same strong female protagonist. One is a girl named Fuka. She is a former idol. She was kind of forced out of the group that she was in, and because she can't quite face up to the town that she's from, she kind of runs away after being let go and ends up in Okinawa. And there she meets the other protagonist girl, Kukuru, who's a high school student, has lost her parents, lives with her grandparents, and her grandfather is the director of a small local aquarium where she works, and it's the summer, so she is also the acting director in her grandfather's stead while the grandfather is doing other things, which you find out is trying to find homes for the creatures in the aquarium because the aquarium is set to close. Now, Kukuru doesn't want to close the aquarium, so is doing everything in her power to try to save the aquarium. And Fuka, because she comes to know her, decides to help out with Kukuru's dream because she feels like her dream has ended and she wants to help someone else achieve their dream. So they have a bond, and there is a few little mysterious things that happen that convinces Fuka to stay in this land that she has no idea, has never been to, and is meeting all these locals and Kukuru's friends as she tries to come to grip with her failures and trying to help Kukuru with her dreams of saving the aquarium. So that's kind of the setup. And what I really appreciated about this is that all the characters are believable characters. They're well fleshed out. They have their dreams. They have their faults. They have their charm. All of it has been great so far, and it's. I think the first core is 12 episodes. I haven't watched episode 12, but I already know what happens in it. And the second core's PV has been released. There's also been some illustration. And it is curious because the stage will move from this little aquarium to a different aquarium. So I don't think that's too much of a spoiler, but you will see how this arc of change happens. And I really, as of the first core, I really, really highly recommend this show. So it's great that it has two strong female protagonists, despite their faults and misgivings. I find them to be really charming. I find the story and the settings to be interesting. There are characters that appear and you think they're throwaway characters, but it's already revealed that they will come back in the second core. And I'm really curious to see how the story goes and ends up. And yeah, I just really think that more people should watch this show.
All right. Would you say this show's very bingeable, or?
Yeah, I would say so because at the beginning I watched it, was watching it weekly, and then I saved up a couple episodes, just watched it, saved up a couple episodes, watched it. So I think so because it's not it's not slice of life. There's a story arc, and you kind of want to see where the story is going. So.
All right. Maybe I can watch that as we're waiting for the new season to fully drop, so I can get caught up. You said there is a second core, right?
Yes.
Is it continuing on this new season, or is it going to be one of those split cores that they have been doing lately?
Good question. Let me go check. It is. Oh, at least on the wiki, it's listing it as now to present. So I think it's continuing. Have to check on maybe Owl or something to see if it's actually going straight in. If it's scheduled for next season.
Okay.
Yeah, episode 13 is dropping in 3 days, so I think it's going straight into the second core.
Oh, that's nice. I've been kind of getting a little saddened by these split cores or having everything being short. But
I mean, that's a reality of current anime production and the time constraints that they have on being able to complete a show.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, so next on the list we got. I'm going to skip the slime one for right now. We got this one, which is Moonlit Fantasy or whatever. Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy on Crunchyroll, or Tsukiga Michibiku Isekai Tocho. And I have to say, this is one of the highly recommended isekais this season that I would recommend. It's already I've already seen that they've greenlit the second season, and it is very different from the manga that I've read and the source material that I read, because I think I read it as a web novel, not the light novel. So I don't know how the web or light novel is, or if there's any differences. But so far, I've really enjoyed this, and how they blend the effects of the CG into it, rather than having, you know, the monsters or beasts that he fights being CG. They're all properly animated, and that the CG is usually used for particle effects or the magical effects that they do. So I was really appreciative of that, not like Arufureteru, where the monsters were all CG and it looked really bad when they had the animation and the CG together as they're in the fight scene. Overall, the story they're telling is pretty close to what I've read. They did add some new things, kind of breaking this fourth wall that was never really done in the anime, or sorry, the manga. But it doesn't deter from it. It just adds more comedy to it. And with this last part of the show, it's actually getting pretty dark compared to what we have seen before in this show. And they definitely left it off on a cliffhanger, and they cut a lot at the end. And I could see why they did it, because it was the last episode, and I could see how they could still add it with the next season. To make up that time, so it's not like it's a total loss or it hurts the story too much, because it does seem to be just following Mikoto here. But they did showcase at the very end like these few scenes with the other heroes in this world, and so we're going to get more into that, it seems like, with the second season. So everything that we've been watching till now is just character build up, world build up, showing you how this society works with this goddess, and how demi-humans or even the demons are viewed, and how the rules of magic work in this world. And with this all now set up with the second season, I think they're going to finally move more into expanding and getting into the real heart of the issues with the war that supposedly the goddess summoned all of them for, except for him, because she felt no need for him. And we can finally get into the juicy parts for the shonen people. But yeah, just it was an amazing show that I would highly recommend compared to the other ones. And
I'm reading the synopsis for this thing, and it describes the main character as like an everyday, average teenager. Like, is that actually true? He's not some sort of like hopeless mega dork salary man, has resentment for, you know, harbors some sort of resentment about the world, and then gets taken away to a fantasy world. Or
no,
is he just like some teenage everyman?
he's a high school student,
Okay.
but he's not like overly beautiful or anything like that. He's just an average student.
I mean, do they do the isekai thing of like, oh, this is just like those light novels that I read?
Well, it kind of starts off that way. Actually, it does. Like I said, it does this kind of fourth wall break where he talks about, you know, when you go to an isekai, you're summoned, you become the hero, you find the princess,
Oh
you do
man.
all these things, and he's like, this is the isekai, but it seems like my luck just wasn't that way, you know, because his life went a totally different way where because of his average looks, every person in that world, the humans, are beautiful looking, are just gorgeous. So when he appeared, the goddess was disgusted with his looks, and even it's like, oh my god, you're so disgusting. I don't even need you. Go live off the edge of the world and don't interact with anyone. Just live there. Don't show your face. Don't even try to mingle with the humans. And the ability I'm going to give you is the lowest I can give you, which is you're able to communicate with everything else except for humans. So he's able to understand all the other beasts and everything, but he can't talk to humans. And she throws him off into the world. And even when people do see his face, they're like, "Are you a demi-human?" You know, because he doesn't look like everyone else. But in our, in Japan, he would probably be just the average-looking guy.
Hmm.
And but he is overpowered, way overpowered, and but he's not trying to be an adventurer or anything like that. He's not trying to make himself known to be this great he wants to be a merchant. He just wants to run a little shop and just live his life with his followers and not have to get into any big conflict. But because of the goddess and all these issues that keep on happening around him, he finds himself feeling kind of unlucky where he gets himself into these situations and things just aren't working out for him. But if you do just watch the first episode, you can kind of see where he does do that silliness where you think, oh my god, this is not like all the other isekais like you just said, right? But
Yeah, I was kind of warning about that, but if they're making isekai references in an isekai, then I guess the world truly is doomed.
yeah, so he even makes a joke where he saves this person. He's like, I saved you, and turns around, it's this orc. This little orc girl, and he's like, oh no, did I just trigger a flag with a pig?
I was skimming around the first episode because it just happens to be on YouTube, and yeah, it's like the first character that he meets, like in the outback or whatever they call it. It basically looks like Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
It's like this pig girl with a full-on snout.
Yeah. He even makes a joke. He's like, I gotta get out of here before I trigger any more flags, and I start following her route. So they do have all that commentary with him and making those jokes, but it seems like it's kind of interesting in a way. I don't know if it's because of his power or whatnot, what's going on, but it seems he doesn't really have that high of a sexual drive or urge, because even the other characters kind of hint at wanting to give him night service or do some stuff for him, but he's just somewhat oblivious to it or brushes it off. It's like, don't do this to, he tries to run away from them at one moment, but it just it's fun in its own little way. But yeah, I'm highly enjoying it though. It's really good. But yeah, the last second to last episode, ooh, oh, it got dark, and it was so good to see the contrast to how the rest of this show was, and you can kind of see it in moments within the series where he has these moments where he's just his eyes kind of go dead, and even his followers kind of get afraid of him, like, what have we done? We got to do something to make him happy, because the way he's looking is, we don't like it. And but yeah, watch it. I say watch it if you love the shonen isekai shows. It's one of the best ones this season. The next title is going to be this one with Albert and Jessica. Looks like Vanitas no Carte.
an anime based on a manga by the same artist that drew Pandora Hearts. If anyone remembers that series, so I like it. I am not caught up or current on it though, but I aim to finish it. So Albert, what did you have to say about it?
Right. So I watched the entire 12 episodes. It obviously is not complete as a story, but I did enjoy about this first season is all the up. It seems like a very rich world with a lot of world building that was done, and we are only getting the tip of the, so to speak. It is kind of set in a alternate steampunk Victorian era Paris, and also a alternate dimension, I guess, of the vampires. So it does seem like the author put a lot of thought into how the world works, and you can kind of see that. And at the end of this I guess season, they hint that they will be moving to a different part of France to investigate something. But a lot of this happens with interaction between Vanitas, who claims he is a kin of the original Vanitas born under the blue moon, and he declares to everyone that he will save the vampires even if they don't want to, because there is some sort of plague, I guess, that is going around causing certain vampires to simply become monsters. And along with the Vanitas, you're introduced to Noe, who is a vampire himself, and is sent by his teacher to go investigate Vanitas. There's someone who's claiming to be Vanitas, find out about the book that he supposedly carries. So the book contains formulas to rewrite the world, apparently, and Vanitas uses it to cure the vampires. So it's kind of like this comedic duo as they try to kind of work together, sometimes at odds with each other, and it's really the interactions that really sell you the story. And there are other characters that are introduced, and you find that the vampire world is not all as it should be. There's some intrigue going on there. You find out that these curse bearers, these vampires that turn into monsters, there are actually triggered, possibly infected by a being. And so, yeah, it's about trying to solve all of this, along with other characters that are introduced, such as the charlatans from the church, the paladins of the church, I should say, because charlatan is the actual enemy's name. Sorry, I got that confused. Yeah, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. So the Vanitas is voiced by Natsuki Hanae, who also is the voice of His Grace and the Duke of Death and His Maid. And last season, he was the voice of Odokawa in Odd Taxi. He usually tends to voice characters that are more like Vanitas, kind of high tension, younger, but he does have the range to pull off a bunch of different characters, from young protagonists to old grumpy men. and he's doing a fantastic job of Vanitas. They go into these comedic moments where they're depicted as their chibi characters, which is quite cute. And I also find one of the other characters, the side characters, Jean, who is a chevalier of one of the vampire nobles. She is she's great. Vanitas loves to tease her, and the whole interaction between the two of them is fantastic. She is voiced by Inori Minase, most famous for being the voice of Rem in ReZero, but she's done a bunch of different roles, and this is a very different voice that she uses for Jean. So I'm really enjoying that, and all her myriad facial expressions that happen. So yeah, if there's a season 2, which I am pretty sure there is, I will watch it. The production values were high throughout the show. You could see some places the shortcuts that they took, but it was never like where the Sakuga is going wonky. There's no off-model characters. It's just like still shots that they use to try to bridge time and gap some of the heavy work that you would have to do for the animating every single scene. So, but when the action happens, it is very well done, very detailed character movements, and there's still backgrounds. So yeah, production values are high. The story is intriguing. Character interactions are great. Voice actors are great, and I would recommend it to probably most people. If you're, I guess, if you're not into stories where they flip between comedy and dead serious, this might not be the show for you. But for most people, I think most people would enjoy this.
You have anything to add, Jessica? Or
Not really. Albert did a really good job of summing it up. It's a great show. It looks nice. Especially the backgrounds, which he mentioned too. The backgrounds are kind of almost bordering on movie quality. They're highly detailed, very nice looking. I like the plot. I like the characters. Um, I think the music is by Yuki Kajiura.
Uh,
She Shoujo?
yeah, I think that might be true.
Yeah. And so if you've heard any soundtrack by her, you know exactly how it's going to sound. But in this one, she keeps the piccolos to a minimum. So it's pretty nice to listen to.
nice, nice. I believe that's it. The only thing we didn't discuss, which I kind of skipped because I didn't have a title card for it, was the slime anime. The second
Not
season,
watching
part
it,
2,
so.
finally
Yeah.
finished, and it's just the continuation of the story. Not much to say about it. I will say this though. I was surprised with some of the things they mentioned at the very end of the anime, which in a fight scene, this guy's actually yelling Hadoken, Hadoken, making all these Street Fighter references, and he even does a Kamehameha reference. So I was actually surprised with all these references that were put into it. I was like, what? Really? Because he was reading manga. So that did surprise me. But other than that, I mean, if you're into the Slime series, you're probably already watching it. And if you're not, you shouldn't be watching it until you watch the first season. So go out there. They definitely left it open for a whole new season. Because there's still a lot more to go within the story. And I believe it's called Annie News. It's a YouTube channel out there that they go in depth for a lot of the information, like skip content that's going on, and the power levels of all the characters and stuff, so you can watch and see what their abilities really are. So that was kind of fun to watch and see and learn more about their abilities. But other than that, there's not much. I'm excited for the next season. I've heard some titles talked about, and I want to kind of spoil myself this season and watch the trailers for them rather than just go into it blind. So I don't know. I might do something on Twitch where I just do like a reaction to each new show that's going to be coming up, watching the previews on YouTube. But other than that,
Well, I'll watch that stream if I happen to catch it.
I'd like to say thank you for Albert, Jessica, and Sean for always joining me here. I
Yep.
really appreciate these moments that we have with each other to talk about the animes and share priceless information with each other. And
Can I ask one question before we go?
yeah,
I managed to not watch any TV anime this entire season because from the outside it just seemed like there's nothing anime of the year caliber here, and maybe if there is, then maybe I'll hear about it later. Like, do you think I was right to not watch anything, or is there anything that's like truly special that I missed?
Kanojo mo Kanojo, you should definitely check out.
Don't listen to him. He's a liar. No, I think that everything I've seen that I've stuck with is solid. But anime of the year, not so much.
Yeah, like I was pretty impressed by Odd Taxi last season.
I mean, we talked about that, and nothing has beaten Odd Taxi or Vivi for me.
So the only thing I say that might be interesting, which I kind of didn't watch because I don't know how to, like, I kind of want to take my time with it because it seemed like it's going to be a really complicated story, is Sunny Boy.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That's like the
Yeah.
only thing that I had in my head, but no one's seen it.
I watched the first episode, and I think it's a very Sean-like show just from the first episode. And I do want to continue watching more. But as to whether or not it sticks the landing, I can't say.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's an
See what
original,
happens.
right? It's not based on anything. I don't think it's not based on a light novel or manga or any existing property.
That's right.
Yeah, it says original. 12 episodes. Yeah. So, everyone out there, Vinny, if you're out there watching, or Nick, if you watch this later, I kind of want to try to do something special to get you guys back into the group, or figure out some way where we can have all of us talking about anime once again. Just maybe for the end of the year or something. There are a lot of movies that are coming out, right? In theaters for reshowings, not necessarily new movies. And
There's also that like Star Wars thing that
Yeah.
came out a few days ago.
Visions
Yeah.
is, I think, streaming right now.
yeah, the Disney Plus thing, right?
Yeah.
I know Studio Trigger was advertising it because I guess they worked on it a little bit.
They have one segment, I believe.
Yeah. So that might be interesting to check out.
The only other things, upcoming wise, I know of that you might be interested in is Heike Monogatari, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
there's already a couple episodes out.
4 episodes out, right? They got to jump early. And there is what the heck is it called? Talked Up Destiny, which is a Mappa X Madhouse original anime. Heavily, I mean, the story, if you just read the synopsis, you're like, what the hell? If you watch the PV and you get everyone that's contributing to the music, you might want to check it out. It's coming up next season.
All right. So, till I think probably it'll be 3 weeks till we meet up again for the beginning of that fall season.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I hope everyone has a wonderful day and on YouTube, and good night.